Well, if you have not yet, run, sprint at 4 o'clock, not during the show, but after this show ends, run and sprint to your television and go watch The Many Lives of Lane Kiffin, because I promise you, as a consumer of sports shows and television, and with a great appreciation for this conference and the history of sports, I'm telling you right now, The Many Lives of Lane Kiffin, the E60 documentary that just came out, was absolutely terrific. Gerhard, Simone, Patrick joining you on this Thursday. I couldn't remember what day it is. It flies by when you're having fun here talking Southeastern Conference. Guys, the Lane Kiffin documentary out. Gerhard, your initial reaction, and this will dictate a lot of the show today, but just your thoughts after watching that 60 minutes.
I'm going to rewind to 2 days ago. Whenever Lane Kiffin, the Whit Weeks and the Landry Kiffin stuff went up, my spidey senses, my antennas went up about why Lane Kiffin is in the news right now. I'm not saying they were walking hand in hand, because Ole Miss is obviously playing a very, very good LSU team this week, and the documentary was released at the time it was released. But I thought, you know what, this could also be drumming up support for what is, I think, a really, really well done documentary. Got a chance to watch it last night. I was telling you two about it. I was like, hey, I just saw a trailer and I saw a thing on the SEC Network the other day. I just happened to look up and I saw Lane Kiffin in the yoga room, and I was like, what in the world is going on here? And so
I saw that too. I'm not gonna lie.
I just watched it. And I was like, what? And so then it was a snippet, about 3 minutes. But watching the full hour yesterday, it really crystallizes a career of a coach that we don't necessarily see right now, and his coming of age. And it did a really good job of telling the story of the immature young coach to where he is right now. I thought it was really, really well done. Yeah,
and over the next 2 hours, we're going to have different guests on the show. We're going to dissect this documentary, really dive deep into everything there is about Lane Kiffin, and that includes chatting with Mike Sadie, of course. He's over there with our Memphis affiliate as we reach out to Next Star Nation. So he very closely covers Ole Miss. Of course, that's where Lane Kiffin currently is. And, of course, Ole Miss right now in a top 10 battle that's going to certainly have a huge implication on the Southeastern Conference and what things look like as we move forward with the SEC slate. Then a little bit later, we will hang out with Holden Kruzmark over there with Oklahoma City. And boy, is Oklahoma in the headlines right now because of their quarterback, who is going to be out for the foreseeable in John Mateer. We just found out that he had surgery just this week on that thumb, or on his right hand, I think is what they're officially saying, after an injury in the first quarter of that Auburn game. So several hot topics, several things throughout the SEC as we enter week 5 of the college football season. Like we mentioned, of course, Lane Kiffin, this top 15 matchup in Oxford between LSU and the Rebels. Oklahoma, what the road ahead looks like as they go into the bye week and then play Kent State, can't write Kent State, and then they will be in that big one against Texas. What will the future look like there in Norman? And then typically, in some capacity, of course, Patrick's going to throw in something that has something to do with just golf, or a topic that he really, really thoroughly enjoys. And today it's going to be the Ryder Cup.
He meaning we, because this is a really, really big event.
You know what? Okay, look at you looking out for your guy. I mean, come on.
Thank you, G. I appreciate it.
I've known this guy for 15 years, and in 15 weeks, he's sitting here and you're.
The Ryder Cup and the President's Cup. This is the first time doing our show during main golf in the fall. Here's the thing. Because golf is a spring and summer sport, all the majors are usually done, except once every couple of years you get the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup. This is the first time doing the show during these two. And there's some SEC ties in here. Justin Thomas, former Alabama star, one of the veterans on the team, knows. So I'm thoroughly excited for this Ryder Cup.
Well, I can't wait. We're going to chat about all those things, guys, and much more. Listen, you know what? There's no question that between the three of us, if people are paying attention to what's going on in the sports world and the national landscape more so than anyone else, it's definitely you two. Because neither one of y'all are parents, and there's that part. And then, I'm very tired often because of that, and so I don't really know what's going on. But thank God I have a good friendship with you guys, because you told me yesterday, hey, there's this Lane Kiffin documentary, and I didn't know about it. And so last night, of course, watched the couple-minute trailer that they had out, which you just knew immediately. I mean, one, I just have such an appreciation for great television and great produced television. And honestly, when you have a great story, you have to also be able to tell it in a really, really impressive way. Sometimes that means you tell it in a timeline from beginning to end. And a lot of times that's not how you do it. That's how ESPN chose to kind of relive Lane Kiffin's journey. And it could not have been more perfect to really be this great summary of what he is, what he was, and what he wants to be in the future. And I was thoroughly impressed. Patrick, I want to give you a moment to just kind of your first initial takeaways where we really dive into different parts of it specifically. But what did you think just from your perspective?
So the first takeaway was how it started. him doing the yoga, and he made a good point where it's like, through this yoga, it puts you in a hard position. And that's something you gotta put yourself in hard positions in life if you want to succeed. And he certainly has put himself in a lot of hard positions. But when I look at the timeline of the events that happened throughout his career, I was young when it all happened. So like I didn't really understand how fast everything moved. Especially the Tennessee bolting for USC, the whole tarmac thing, getting fired on the tarmac. It just felt like one after another, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, man, this guy could not catch a break at all anywhere.
Well, and in a lot of ways, I think that you start to have an appreciation for the timeline that did exist. But I think what you said is a great point. And they really journalistically started it in a great way, in a beautiful way. It gave me chills. I mean, I looked down at my arm and literally had the hair on my arm was standing up when he said, you know, yoga forces you to be in hard positions. And to have success, you have to be able to remain in those difficult positions and really soak them in. And wow, it really came full circle, of course, as we dissect all of this. But let's go back, because Patrick, I think not only do you have to be either young, you also, I mean, in the place that I was in life was I was playing college basketball, and I was just so focused in on what my day-to-day was. When you're a college kid, you don't even know what's going on beyond, you know, either parties or in college athletics. I mean, just right in front of you at Bowling Green State University. I dang sure didn't care what was happening at USC. I didn't care what was happening in the South. I mean, I'm Northwest Ohio. God dang it. I mean, I don't care what's going on. So to go and see how this all replayed, Gerhard, I mean, you were watching this from a fan perspective, and also a guy who was playing football, so you just had a natural instinct and interest in what was going on. Yeah,
I mean, I think every football player, when you come up playing football because you watched it. So you watched Saturdays, college football, you watched Sundays, and you were a part of trying to predict winners and stuff like that. So you're kind of plugged into the game. And so this came out a little bit after I was done at Jacksonville State, but I was still a sports fan. So I was still consuming sports, watching Sports Center every day and stuff like that. Where I agree with Patrick is one of the things that really was kind of a reminder to me is how fast everything went. I forgot the timeline that I was in my head putting at years. I thought there was a couple of year difference between the Raiders and Tennessee. I thought there was a wild difference between Tennessee and USC. No, it was really automatic. It was really, really close. And but no, it really, I love the parallels that it did all together, because playing where I played in high school, we adopted that Tampa 2 defense that his dad ran. So I remember running like a lot of those same concepts in high school. And so all that came back to mind, because I just remember Monte Kiffin being like this godfather figure of defenses that like when you are ranking defensive guys in your mind, Monte Kiffin was the top one. And then obviously his son Lane, but it also helped connect a lot of dots that I did not know really existed, that I forgot that Jamarcus Russell was there when Lane was there.
That was wild, yes.
And the amount of pressure that Al Davis had, and basically almost being lied to by Al Davis.
Talk about wild. That was real. Basically, I mean, that guy, Lord, we could talk for 2 hours about whatever that press conference, which, again, when you are in my current day Simone, just going back, I wasn't really paying attention, certainly during the time. And then even since then, all you hear is like, there's this guy with the Raiders, he's kind of wild, owns the team, like nobody can win under him because he's just exhausting. Like, you don't really know how things played out. So to be able to see that in this documentary was incredible. I want to go back to how he became a coach. I thought this was interesting. This is really how the entire documentary started off. And we won't divulge everything for people who have not watched it yet, but there's just like basic information things. He was on the depth chart as a quarterback there at USC, and he said that and that David Carr came in, and it was like, okay, he realized quickly, you know, I'm not gonna see the field, right? And he got an opportunity to be a coach, and to see how that's kind of how things kicked off. It was pretty cool to see, okay, like here he gets thrust into this spotlight from a student athlete, changes the polo. He goes from out of a jersey, puts on a polo. By the way, his hairstyles, this documentary could have been called The Many Hairstyles of Lane Kiffin, because in a lot of ways that was different as well. But he goes and changes. He's like, all right, I'm gonna put this jersey up. I'm gonna put on a polo for the team picture, because now I'm a GA. I'm gonna punt. I'm not even gonna try to compete. I'm just gonna be a coach.
It's so funny because there were so many names that are still well connected with football. David Carr, people think of him because obviously he was the #1 overall pick, but also too, you associate his career with like if you don't give a guy an offensive line, you're toast.
Yeah.
So while he was great in college, it kind of almost saved Lane Kiffin from the perspective of not, you know, going over to who knows what kind of athlete he would have been. But no, it's hilarious how fast he went from athlete to coach. And I thought what was really telling was the fact that, you know, everybody, and I think the reason why it was so fast for him is because everybody that in his mind that was playing football, they all wanted to be the football stars. And he wanted to be Tom Landry. He wanted to be the guy that was the coach. That. And so it kind of let you know that in the back of his mind, he was going to be a coach. I don't know if he knew it was going to be within one day of going from the jersey to the polo, but it was a hilarious
one day. It seemed like it was in like the 1 hour, you know, or like 20 minutes even. But what I found interesting, Gerhard, was how fast everything, the clock for what it was. At 31 years old, he became the head coach of the Oakland Raiders at 31. He's the head coach of men who are you know, have children who are 10 years older than him. I mean, it's completely wild to think about. In a lot of ways, it was like if you were on the outside looking in, you knew this was going to be the fast path to a train wreck in some capacity, similar to like child stars. That's how I viewed it. It's like when how many times have we seen in Hollywood child stars go get a huge opportunity, and at some point there's a crash and burn, and it's unfortunate as heck. I mean, it is. But when you get thrust into a spotlight and you get these opportunities, and his dad, he said in the documentary, my dad said, I think he joked. He was hesitant. He looked at it the way you were supposed to be looking at it, and I wasn't. And then it turned out to be not a good situation for him. Right.
And what I really loved about that moment was also because Steve Sarkisian was right there with them, and then seeing how those two their journeys. That
Sark said he wouldn't want the job.
Parallel one another. But yes, he was just so ambitious and so hungry to become a coach. And he wanted to be Tom Landry. He wanted to be the next. So he was like, in my mind, I'm like, duh, of course I would take this opportunity. But being 31 years old and his dad being in the game for so long, his dad was just like, not every job that says HC on it, the head coach is a great job here.
Amen.
And so the grass isn't always greener just because you're getting paid NFL money. And so to me it was just such an interesting storyline of where he was then, because all of us who are north of 31, myself included, right now, you look back at yourself and you're like, that is so true. It's how ambitious you are at that time.
Oh, and you're taking every opportunity, yes, to all the things, and they have to be the right opportunity for you. And maybe you can't realize that in that moment you don't have the life experience to maybe know that you weren't ready for that. But obviously his dad, who had been around the block a time or two or three or five, was like, hey, pump the brakes for a minute, and ultimately you sometimes have to let your kids go realize that figure out some things for yourself, right? And that's what he did.